Hi, everyone. Welcome to our next Xinova webinar. I'm just waiting for a few more people to come in, but go ahead and get started. So thanks to everyone who was able to make it. Know that there've been, this RFI webinar was rescheduled, and it is going to be recorded for those who weren't able to make it. So this will be posted on the RFI page. So this is a packaging RFI focused on e-commerce especially. So the title of the RFI is Click, Ship, and Sip. So this RFI was launched on February 13th and will be open until May 8th. So as always, I'll take your questions at the end of the presentation, though you're welcome to submit them all throughout the webinar using the Q&A button, which I believe you can find at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen, depending on whether you're on your phone or your desktop. So I wanted to start this webinar by focusing a little bit on the terminology, because when it comes to e-commerce, some of this is a little bit different. So the primary packaging can be divided into primary, secondary, and tertiary. And in this RFI, we're going to be talking a lot about primary packaging. So primary package is a package that touches the actual product. So for this RFI, we're talking about the products that you see on the screen. So Tropicana beverages, Lipton tea, coconut water, Oni, and the non-beverage product here is the Gatorade powder, but it behaves very similarly. That you mix it with water, it is beverage. And in each of these cases, this canister, the handle, the bottle, all of these are considered the primary package. So primary packaging has always been designed with a brick and mortar store in mind. It's meant to be displayed on a shelf, then you pick it up, it's carried by a consumer, it's handled by the consumer in order to use the product. So in this case, in order to pour some beverage or powder. So because of all of the handling by the consumer, it's been designed for better ergonomics with a better handle, a neck for easy holding, and of course, the least packaging material needed to hold what's inside. You have some branding that's also located in a place that's meant to be viewed on a shelf. None of this is important when it comes to e-commerce, or it's very different when it comes to e-commerce. So even today, with online shopping becoming a growing part of our lives, even for groceries, primary packaging for these groceries hasn't changed. So you're still seeing the same canister, bottle, or jug shipped off to the consumer. And keep in mind that none of these were designed to withstand the physical demands of shipping. So if these are shipped, then, or if multiple units need to be packed together for easier handling by the store or the e-tailer, then they have to be boxed appropriately. So they might be put together in one of these different ways. So for example, directly into a box as in with a Gatorade powder, commonly shrink wrapped and put into a cardboard tray, or what you see at the bottom commonly for aluminum cans is a simple cardboard box, thin paperboard with a lot of branding that holds and unitizes multiple units together. So this is called the secondary packaging, and it's essentially the package that holds the primary packaging. It contains and protects the primary package. It combines multiple units for easier handling and shipping. Usually the primary package is most visible and important to the consumer, but for brick and mortar, often the secondary package can also be just as important. So think about the bottom example there with the 12-pack of cans. The consumer usually picks that up themselves too. And so in that case, the secondary package is also important. So while some of this, the shrink wrap, the second, the cardboard box at the very top can provide some protection, it's not really designed for shipping purposes, at least not at the degree that's needed for e-commerce. So it might require additional protection, or these units still need to be palletized with even more multi-pack units before it's sent to the store for display. So that's where this overbox comes into play. They're placed into some other cardboard box. In this case, an e-tailer, the e-tailer is Amazon. So this is called tertiary packaging. So this packaging might also be referred to as an over box, since it's essentially the last piece that contains all of the secondary packaging. It's not typically viewed by the customer. So when it comes to brick and mortar shipping, this is palletized, it's sent to the store. Consumers don't usually see this. It's meant to protect the secondary package. It might contain what's called dunnage, things like the crumpled paper you can see on that top picture, foam peanuts, spacers, anything like that to secure the secondary packages inside. You might also notice when you, for example, place an order on Amazon, you'll receive many packages that might not even be related to each other, different product types in one Amazon box. And so that might be a reason that multiple products have to be repackaged into the Amazon overbox. So that's tertiary packaging, the last level. For e-commerce, then, you can see that this uses up a lot of material. So these, what you're seeing, are examples of some things that we had ordered just to get a handle, excuse the pun, on the kind of packaging in play. So along with the cardboard boxes, you'll see shrink wrap, you'll see extra crumpled paper, you might see paper mold being used to protect, in this case, glass bottles. So this is an issue not only for sustainability, but also cost. When it comes to brick and mortar stores, products are usually handled about 5 times, and these are called touches in the industry. So the product is palletized, it's piled high, it's shipped to a distribution center, then trucked over to your local store, where it's then unpackaged and displayed on a shelf. Then the consumer finally handles it, placing it in the cart and then bringing it home. With e-commerce, there's 4 times more happening, maybe more, 20 touches, and a lot of repacking. So if we start at the beginning, a product is shipped to maybe an internal distribution center where the products are then removed from whatever packaging they were in and then repackaged into some kind of e-commerce friendly container. This is then palletized again and sent to the e-tailer like Amazon, who again will unpack the product and repack it as individual units or whatever makes sense for their business, and then store it in their warehouse. Then consumers going to place an order online without having seen the product yet. And so at that point, the e-tailer will then repack whatever the consumer ordered, repack those appropriately, and then send them to a shipping center. Then it's handled by UPS, FedEx, some shipping company, before it finally reaches the consumer's doorstep. So I simplified this. There can be a lot more steps depending on what's needed, but it's at least 20 touches and many instances of being packed and repacked before it reaches the consumer. So all of this extra handling translates to additional high costs, operational costs. So what we're looking for in this RFI is pretty simple as an ask. We're looking for a way to reduce packaging and handling with a primary package design that can be shipped as is. So if you're wondering what we mean by shipped as is, the best way to answer this is to look at Amazon as an example, which would be the lead e-tailer for PepsiCo products. So Amazon has several tiers of certification required for products to ship with Amazon without requiring some significant fees. At the lowest level, you have tier 3, which is prep-free shipping. Amazon does not need to prepare the product for shipping in this case, and it results in minimal damage. You do need Amazon's overbox, so you do need that tertiary packaging. This is not what we're looking for. This is achievable with the current methods, and it doesn't do enough to reduce packaging and handling costs. On the other hand, the top 2 tiers are the goal of this RFI. So tier 2 is also known as SIOC shipping, or ship in own container. So it's in the name. It means you can ship it as is, the same manner that it arrives at the Amazon facility, meaning it does not require the Amazon overbox. So you're eliminating that tertiary packaging already. Tier 1 goes a step further, and it's called frustration-free packaging. The most important criteria here is that it uses materials that can be recycled curbside. So for example, it doesn't mix materials. It also means that the package is easy to open, but for the products we're talking about here, the beverages, it's usually less of a problem. but still something to consider when you're looking at redesigning this. It can't be something that's complex for the consumer to get access to the beverage. So primary packaging for this RFI has to meet either Tier 2 or Tier 1, either SIOC or FFP criteria. If it meets the ship-in on container criteria, Tier 2, that's okay, but it's ideal to have a line of sight towards Tier 1, meaning, for example, your design shouldn't make it impossible to eventually use curbside recyclable materials. If that's the case, then it can never be frustration-free packaging. It can never be Tier 1, which is not what we're looking for. So to help give an idea of what we're looking for, there's been a recent example of success, which is the Tide Ecobox. This is a great moment for P&G, the company behind this product, and an exciting development in e-commerce overall, because a liquid product had been redesigned to not only use a lot less packaging, it's 60% less plastic, and even just less water for this particular product, but it's also lighter. It takes up less space, and it's still very easy to use. So you can see in the picture, it's designed that you can pop out, essentially stand for it. There's a spout that pops up, and there's a cup that's included, so you can quite easily begin using it. Note, though, that this is shipped with a simple plastic shipping wrap. So this isn't necessarily, this isn't takeaway, it's certification for SIOC. This shipping wrap is basically used so that a shipping label can be placed on the container. That's the only purpose of that. It's not considered to be another layer of packaging. So essentially that's okay. I do also want to point out, though, that this design, strictly speaking, integrates primary and secondary packaging. So remember, I defined primary packaging as what's in direct contact with the product. So here there's a bag inside that holds a detergent. And so that's the primary package. The secondary package is this outer purple and gold box. But what's unique here is that the secondary and primary packaging are so tightly integrated because you as a consumer would not be able to really access the detergent without the secondary package. So this, even though we're looking for primary package solutions, something like this is within the RFI scope. That said, we're not looking for yet another bag-in-a-box solution. That's not new. It's very much the same idea as boxed wine, for example, which is also a bag in a box. Unless you can demonstrate a version that is somehow an improvement over these existing examples. So we're looking for something a little bit different. And there's reasons for that, marketing reasons, for example, for wanting something that really stands out as a new piece of packaging that is e-commerce friendly. So as I mentioned at the start, we're looking for primary packaging for these 4 products. And really what we're looking for is products that are multi-serve, which basically means that, of course, there are multiple servings. There are volumes of at least 32 ounces and up to 89 ounces, which is what you're seeing here. So the designs, we've included these product types just to give you an idea of what the current primary packaging is like for simplicity to help define the scope. But your primary packaging designs, if they're selected, could be used for other similar products. So if we look at the must-haves of this RFI, there are quite a few criteria here that are pretty specific. So I highly encourage looking at these in detail, getting an understanding. So the first one gets into really the physical criteria. So you have to meet the SIOC and FFP guidelines. And one of these guidelines involves meeting the ISTA 6 Amazon compliance guidelines for SIOC. Essentially, that's a series of tests that show that this product, this package, can withstand the demands of shipping so that it can be shipped as is. So an example of this, these are the tests that were specifically mentioned for this RFI, keeping in mind we're talking about liquids. So it should be able to pass these tests without any leaks and with minimal cosmetic damage. So a number of drops from a certain height, vibration sequences that mimic what you experience in truck delivery. And I want to add, actually, since we're talking about these kinds of physical tests, remember at Xinova, we don't anticipate that inventors do any sort of proof of concept or prototyping at this stage. That comes after we select your solution. But we are looking for a solution where we can understand why or how you expect it to pass these tests. So for example, you described that it has these materials or these properties that would enable it to survive these kinds of tests. So that's what we're looking for at this stage. There are specific size and weight requirements that I've noted here. They're noted in the RFI document. These are really important. These are Amazon's limitations. So that's not to say that this package has to be a minimum of this design or a maximum of that, minimum of this size or maximum of that size. Simply saying that these are the limits by Amazon, and if it falls outside these limits, then it cannot be shipped as is. So for example, I had a number of questions about how, given the volume of at least 32 ounces, that's much larger than the minimum size described here. So that's okay. So of course, it's not going to be as small as 9 by 6 by 0.375 inches. There are a number of traits that it needs to be more sustainable. So it should be designed for recyclability, as I mentioned. You should aim for reduced use of packaging and reduced use of a corrugated cardboard. That's a standard cardboard that you see with most boxes, with fluting in between the two smooth layers. And packaging should not exceed 10 to 20% of the product cost. So the natural next question is, what does a product cost? It varies between $3 US to $5 to $6 US. You can look up some of these products online to see how much they cost on Amazon or other retailers such as Walmart, even Costco, some of those bulk websites, to get an idea of costs. But I would say $3 to $6 US gives you an idea of the product cost. For volumes, again, it should be anywhere from 32 ounces to 89 ounces. So we're looking for these multi-serves, but it cannot be more than 89 ounces. Again, the design does need to be novel. One way to help demonstrate this is just to describe the advantages of existing solutions. Believe this would be section 3 in the solution report. So we do have a specific place where we ask you to describe that. And that just helps us to really note the advantages of what you've submitted. Lastly, it should be stackable. So there are many designs out there that could be great, but simply can't be stacked when palletized. So it must be possible to stack them. There's that also enables a good amount of surface area for a shipping label too. So there needs to be enough space for a proper shipping label to be added, even if it's after putting a shipping wrap over the package. So these are the criteria. They're all listed in the RFI, and I highly recommend paying attention to that. There's also, it could be helpful to look at the Amazon guidelines. There's a number of documents you can just find online. But rather than being caught up in all of those details, we've put the specific tests here that we would want the package to pass. So there's no need to, there's a lot of tests. Otherwise, if you look at this ISTA documentation, so I recommend just looking at these tests. Okay, with that, I'm open to taking any questions. So as always, if you have questions about any specific ideas, I encourage you to send them our way through the website. You can click on the intercom button or the chat feature, which is on the bottom right corner of our website. Or if you have our email, please reach out to us via email with your idea. And I highly encourage doing this before writing up the full solution report, just because we can give our feedback and help you feel confident before spending time writing that up. For something like this, since it's a design-focused problem, I highly encourage putting some kind of visual in your design, even in the summary section. So the summary section should be no more than 150 words, and a visual can say more than any number of words about what your design is. So it can be very simple as a photo or scan of a drawing, but as long as you can include something, it really helps us understand the design you're proposing.